These have been the sort of stories, impossible to verify, that have led to lurid headlines, political rhetoric and public disquiet. Behind the headlines, of course, are real people and their children. Kocha is from Kurdistan.
My dad had a message that he was going to get killed. So we had an idea to leave the country. So we came here by a plane, to catch a plane and come to England, came to Birmingham to get a school and get educated.
Why did they want to kill your father?
No reason.
Hamed came from Afghanistan.
When I was only 5-6 years old, I seen him killing people each other. I was scared too at that time.
This girl is from Somalia.
Because Somalia, there was no peace.
Did you see much fighting yourself?
Yeah, I saw. It was big fighting.
Did your father feel threatened at all?
Yeah, he felt. That's why he came in England.
Theirs are the sort of stories that rarely get heard, except in schools. It's the schools that have to deal with the children, confused and possibly traumatised, who have escaped from one country and arrived in another, unable to speak the language or understand the culture. In this programme, we look at how two schools cope in inner-city Birmingham. The Percy Shermer Primary School, where English is spoken as an additional language by 95% of pupils, and the St Albans Church of England Secondary School, where there are currently 27 different languages spoken by pupils. We see how both schools adapt their teaching and involve the wider community through a parent partnership project.
When child comes to the school, you can see from the face, from the way they talk to you, they answer you, or even in their own language, you feel there's fear. I mean, with the few children, I felt there's fear inside them. They are frightened from something.
We hear about some of the more unexpected challenges, such as dealing with pupils given the wrong official age.
Well, they're supposed to be in year 7, but I have my serious doubts. Some of them are very much younger. And I don't think anyone in this particular group is older than 11 or 12. But there are children who are also alleged to be 11 or 12 that are growing beards.
And we listen to what one head teacher has to say when she gets the chance to spell out her problems to the leader of Birmingham LEA.
It does need to be, there's other agencies, which I know we have contact with and we do work with, but we're not closely knitted enough yet.
Yes, because what is now causing me some concern is that you're left to deal often with the problem in its rawest sense.
Yes.
The City Council, in its sort of work as the disperser, is receiving them and moving them to a locality. And we obviously need to do a lot more work before we move them to a locality to actually make them feel more at home.
This is Highgate, on the fringes of Birmingham city centre. At the start of the academic year, 60 new pupils arrived at St Albans Secondary School. 40 came from overseas, a mixture of children from families seeking refuge, asylum or joining relatives already settled here.
I think in the wider community, it can be quite hard for some of the more established communities to cope with sudden influxes, because you have to remember that what happens in this area is influenced by what's happening in the world at large. So the groups of people over the years will vary, and therefore the cultural differences and the challenges for this immediate locality will change.
I want you to go to that poster and I want you to show us what's your favourite fruits.
The priority for newly arrived pupils is an assessment, carried out here in the department specialising in English as an additional language. Pupils will stay within the department until they have a basic grasp of English.
First 2 weeks, we keep them here. When they come first, we have to make sure they are confident to go to the lessons. Make sure they understand where they're going. Make sure they can communicate with the teacher. If she asks them, where you been, they know the name of the teacher or what lesson they been. We make sure to know all these, then we release them to the mainstream. Can you read it for me?
B-A-N-A-N-A.
Well done, very good. They confused, they shy, they no self-esteem, no confidence. It's just you see them frightened. Even when they come, they don't know what to say. Do they say hello in their own language or they say hello in English? Some of them, they don't know how to say hello in English, really. I came to this country because of the regime in Iraq, which is, we left by force from my country, and we lived here. I faced difficulties myself when first I came to this country. I feel for the kids. I know how they feel, and I took it, from inside me. That's why I love to, work with them, because I know how to deal with them.
But even if pupils can't speak English, they learn how to read and write it. The lessons start with these exercises.
I can already hear all the little sounds in the room that we're getting ready to do. They're brain gym, and they're just to activate the children ready for learning. So there are yoga-y type things where you're stretching. There are exercises that cross the midline of the body so that both hemispheres are activated. And then this exercise is to stimulate the auditory cortex so that you become very aware of sound.
Does it work?
Yes.
Pupils are regularly put into pairs so they can help each other.
Which we don't do that in English. We're not. No. 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 Don't roll it. Even littler. I was brought up in the East End of London. I was surrounded by refugees. And so I have a very, people need to, if they're going to live in this country, they need to be able to function in this society, and literacy is part of it. So just remember that.
I do think, from a staff point of view, it's far more challenging. We have to be more skilled, more aware, more on our toes.
So how do you support your staff to get through those challenges?
Mainly through training of staff in terms of useful methodology, such as visual, auditory and kinesthetic teaching methods, which make work accessible, more accessible, particularly if it's visual, to EAL learners, but more accessible to children with various learning styles.
OK, what can you tell me?
Rabbit
Trousers with trees. Rabbit.
So what happened when you arrived in Birmingham?
Well, I felt happy, and straight away I started to look for schools to get educated, and I'm hoping to take my GCSEs this year.
Did you speak any English?
No. Well, the teachers helped me very well. They started to teach me alphabets and words and reading and everything, and I got used to it.
Mm-hmm. And can you remember how long it took you to understand what was happening?
6 months.
Arguably the person with the most responsibility, because he's a mature man.
Oh, yeah,
Can you remember Alderman? Can you remember his name?
No, I don't remember.
When you turned up at St Albans on your first day, could you speak English?
No, I couldn't.
So how did you cope?
Well, I could see any what's going on, but I don't know what they're saying to me or each other.
What helped you most of all in school?
School, this helped me to learn English, do my GCSE, my homework, stay after school to do my coursework.
Did you find coming to school very confusing?
No.
No?
I was excited.
Excited?
Yeah.
Why were you excited?
Because I want to learn more English. That's why I was excited. Yeah, I want to be here.
In neighbouring Balsall Heath, the Percy Shermer Primary School has a similar makeup of pupils newly arrived from overseas. The ones who speak Arabic soon meet Faisal Hamoud from the Community Education Association, who visits 2 or 3 times a week to carry out assessments and help teach English.
First of all, I do a home language assessment to find out how developed they are in their own background and their own education, whether if they've been to a state school or not, or how much they understand. And from there I start giving them basic English language. Okay, if you can identify something in the pond, put your hand up. What can you see? What can you see? Yes?
Fish.
Fish. Who can tell me what color are the fish? Orange. Okay, well done. Good. When I first do my assessment, it's an introduction. I let them know who I am, what I do. And because I did go through the same circumstances with myself in the 70s, I'll tell them about my story, how it was hard for me, and how I got over that problem. And
how did you get over it?
Well, tell you the truth, I just managed myself. I realized at the end that I need to help myself. I mean, to integrate myself, to have more courage, and not to be afraid to make mistakes.
The school has a full-time teacher specialising in English as an additional language, and children can expect at least 3 lessons a week like this. The rest of the time, they're with everyone else.
Orange, well done, good.
That's why all of our teachers have to sort of be trained really to be teachers of children who have English as additional language. It can't really be seen they are teachers and that's it, and somebody else deals with those matters. It's about everybody having an understanding, and we're still learning all the time about having that understanding and awareness and what to do, what to put in place to give those children support. And it's not just the children's support, it's their families as well.
In this literacy lesson, the text on the whiteboard has been carefully chosen. It's from the diary of Anne Frank.
They don't want the Germans or the people that are going to take them away to see where they're going. So it's kind of giving away their hiding place, isn't it? If they take lots and lots of bags and suitcases.
As you can see, in the instance this morning where we were discussing Anne Frank, we try to allow them to express themselves. And the classroom, if the atmosphere is one of a caring family atmosphere, as we try to develop here, they are able to express those feelings. And the children here are all very, very happy and very willing to talk about some of those experiences with people sitting next to them or through discussions.
Everyone has a talking partner, someone who can speak their first language as well as English.
What were you discussing? What was Anne feeling right now?
She probably missed her bed. She probably got a bit homesick.
This way the child feels he's expressing his point of view within the class. Within the year, they will pick up enough words to be able to communicate to the teacher, bearing in mind that these children have already got the structure of a language. So it's learning those English words in order to express those feelings.
The next part of the lesson involves looking at unfamiliar words, first as a group and then once again in pairs.
The word for satchel in Pashto is bustake. And we found out what it was in Arabic. What did we say it was, Asma?
Shanta.
Shalta. And there was another word in Somalian, Samaron.
Shandan.
Shandan. And I know there's one in Bengali, so you're going to work on that one for me, okay? So I want you to find a word, look it up to find out what it means, and then think about a word in your home language that is similar to that word. Okay, can you do that for me?
Yes.
It's not uncommon for some pupils to be unable to read or write in their own language because they've never had chance, or been allowed, to attend school.
For me, it's been a real eye-opener because they are all the more excited if they haven't been. And when they do come into this kind of environment and they do have that chance to express themselves, they do outperform lots of other children.
As well as a talking partner, a pupil may have a behaviour mentor, another pupil who can explain what is and isn't appropriate.
You're Kurdish, yeah?
Yeah.
And do you speak Arabic?
Yeah, I speak Arabic. My father speaks Arabic.
Okay.
Both the Percy Shermer School and St Albans Secondary use visiting counsellors where necessary. At St Albans, additional help is provided by mentors from the Birmingham Advisory and Support Service.
I go in the school and I ask for their list of asylum seekers and refugees. and then I look at that list, and for a period of 6 to 8 weeks, I pick out 5, and I work very, very closely with these 5. Liaise with their teachers, liaise with heads of year, find out, what barriers to learning they have, and try and eradicate those barriers.
Here, help is being given to a pupil who's preparing to return to Iraq.
Why did you choose Romeo and Juliet? Because Romeo and Juliet, they have 2 families fighting, aren't they? Why did you choose Romeo and Juliet?
My story is the boy is from Iran, the girl is from Iraq. And in the old day, Iraq and Iran, they used to fight each other.
Okay.
They used to fight each other, and I'm making this story that I can tell that the story of these 2 loved persons make the country as a friend.
Iran and Iraq
yeah.
as friends. There was this particular pupil who came over here, and he was having problems with his family. And then later on, I found out that he was living with his stepmother, and they did not get on. He was in all sorts of problems, to the point where he went out and started shouting and screaming and fighting with people. And the police took him, and then later on I found out he was a child soldier.
Tensions between different communities in Birmingham, which has led to clashes in the streets, has shown no sign of spilling into the playgrounds at either the St Albans or Percy Shermer schools.
We are a faith school, and we're all very, very clear on what we're trying to do here, give the best opportunities for our pupils, regardless of any external factors. And we work very hard on teaching the children to treat each other with respect, to work on mediating when there's problems, to spend time with the children, to work on these issues, the whole person.
The schools benefit from a parent partnership project that's funded through community education in 25 schools in South Birmingham. The project started as part of a general initiative to bring parents together, involve them in the education of their children and interest them in lifelong learning. It organises social events and courses, such as this Lifesavers course. It's proved invaluable in helping newly arrived families.
We've found over the years that parents have oftenly said, how can we as parents who don't speak the English language help our child at home? Surely isn't that the school's job? But what we're trying to promote as parents, as co-educators, is that no, a lot of the learning does take place at home. We then were faced with a barrier that we don't know how to teach our children, we don't know what they're learning, and this is why we believe by getting them into school, if it need be to observe classes or lessons taking place, we then sit down with the parents and just go over what's being taught, but in a simpler format, so when the child takes homework home, they are in that position, or they will have that confidence to sit down and go through the homework with the child. You've shown an interest in some of the courses that you'd like to do.
A parent partnership worker will spend around 6 hours a week in a school, meeting pupils and parents, or in this case an aunt recently arrived from Zimbabwe who wants to improve her literacy and computer skills.
I speak Shona in my country, that's why I speak English.
So the language is different?
Language is different.
What about the culture? The way people dress as well?
I wear dresses in my country. Now I come here, I wear trousers.
Do you know why that is? It's because of the weather?
It must be absolutely baffling for someone new to this country trying to understand the education system.
Yeah, not only the educational system, but the way of life, the language, the culture. It's such a different shock. This is why we try and get them in right at the beginning and try to get them to settle down. Not only parents, we try and explain that when it's a child coming to school, it's a new school for the child, but it's also a new school for the parent, and trying to get them to be more active and to be more involved.
The partnership provides another essential service by finding linguists. It all means a lot of pressure is taken off staff. One pressure no one can ease comes from pupils being placed into the wrong year groups. But schools are powerless if the parents say that's the age of their child and the Home Office accepts that's the age of the child. What can you do?
Not a lot. I have had children where when they sat down at the back of the chair, you know, like very small children, their legs stick straight out. I've had them like that.
In an example that we had a child who was far too tall to be, even in our year 6 class, which is 11-year-olds. And they were, probably about 15 years of age, but we have nothing to say. And it's putting them into that situation, which feels very wrong to us.
As if they haven't got enough to deal with, staff at both schools feel they're being hampered rather than helped by other agencies, such as housing associations, which move families around without enough thought about schooling. And both secondary school and primary school want greater official understanding of what they're facing in the classroom.
We always need to be thinking in terms of value added as an accurate measurement of children's success. Their progress is what we need to measure, rather than some arbitrarily, externally decided benchmark.
At the end of the day, it's national strategies which we are having to comply to. And I do worry that they are very well biased towards children being born and growing up in a society with English as their first language.
I've just picked up a story called What do you think the story's about? What's this here?
Birmingham City Council's Cabinet Member for Education and Lifelong Learning, Les Lawrence, had a chance to hear some of these concerns when he visited the Percy Shermer School. After visiting classrooms and the school's specialist unit for pupils with impaired hearing, he met up with head teacher and parent partnership worker in the staff room.
But Percy Shermer's in a part of the city to which a lot of newly arrived refugee and asylum families are relocated. Now, to what degree does that put pressure on you as a school first? And secondly, what are the steps you have to take to try and integrate those pupils into the mainstream?
We will have children admitted to the school with no warning sometimes. It's a case of a family knocking on the door saying, we need a space for our daughter or son, or sometimes a whole family. There can be a difficulty there straight away because the language spoken by that family is not spoken by anybody in the school at that time. But we have a fantastic networking system with parent partnership, community education, in finding somebody who can help us.
Some of our families, in their home countries, they're not forced to go to school. Children are not forced to go to school. And when they come to Birmingham and they decided to live here, it's a whole new cultural shock to them, new government, new rules, and having to emphasise that it is a part, school life is a part of a child's life, and you have to, and it's a must. You need to send your child to school every day.
Children are very adaptable and they will settle in any sort of circumstances. For the parents, especially if they themselves don't have much command of the English language, is the community such around here that they're drawn in, they're welcomed, they're made part of, and that helps with the relationship in the school?
It does happen, and I think that's an asset for the school and a strength that we have got. And if children are seeing their mums and occasionally dads come into school, then it's okay, oh yeah, well, this is part of, it's not so this thing I'm sent to, and I've got to survive, and then I go home, and it's a different world. Even if parents have been in the school, they see the kind of things that are happening, they have chances then to talk to Maha, because they may have problems of their own in settling in. She is a person then who can either say, I can't help you, but I know somebody who could help you. Right. And it's building up that sort of, I know I can get help. We're not a centre just as a sort of a social service to actually say, right, I've got a problem with this, can you sort it for me? But we are another body to come in and say, help me.
Refugees often find themselves in just about the worst situation of all, because they usually come with nothing, not sure where they're going, and they don't have much money or any assets. Do you find that there's a specific issue dealing with those families?
It is varied. One, as you quite rightly say, they have come with nothing, and they may be living in accommodation which is just about passable, really, for living standards. And I think sometimes we do create a little oasis, somewhere with routine, people to talk to. But also, we have to also remember, it's not just about the acquisition of English language. Refugee children have often come from very troubled areas, and they're quite traumatised.
Are you then, when you're in that situation, getting the support from the other public agencies.
We're not there yet, no, and I think we do need that extra support.
Right.
We have somebody who, when she's here, which is brilliant, or not just maybe this person, but the networking of other people coming in. But it's not every hour of the day, and it's not for those incidentals when a child will suddenly feel, oh, just don't like the system, I'm not managing, and I'm going to show my reaction because I have no respect for other girls in the class, I have no respect for a female teacher, and I will do everything I like to get myself away from this.
Because the school has been there and
yes,
no,
we've had that sort of incident, and it's dealing with it then, and not just a short, sharp shock in managing that situation, but it's about then, well, what are we going to do this, and it could happen again.
The leader of the country's largest education authority is a wiser man thanks to his visit, and he's also considering encouraging parent partnerships in schools across the whole city.
I've learnt two things today. One, that we need to be more proactive within our asylum seeker and refugee unit in terms of how we inform parents of the circumstances and the locations and the facilities that they will be able to utilise when they're placed. And secondly, that it's all very well placing a family with a school and in a locality, and then we go and move them after, say, half a term or even 2 terms by rehousing them, and not actually ensuring that the school from which they're coming and the school to which they're going has the information to ensure the continuity of education for the youngsters in those circumstances.
And there was a complaint about lack of integration from all the services that could help these families.
Yes, I think that is as much a historic thing as anything else, because we are moving towards the concept of integrated children's services to try and overcome that type of issue. And given that families who are in very dire circumstances, especially refugees, then we need that integrated service to assist the whole family and not just the child.
Despite everything, the difficulties, the stresses caused by taking in and helping children of refugees and asylum seekers, there remain huge rewards.
It's about a multitude, a diversity of cultures, experiences, talents, gifts. It makes it a very, very special place to be, and it's a true learning experience for all of us every day.